Hey, you want to see something really scary?
What's your favorite scary movie?
I'm gonna scare the hell out of you.
What was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
When there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk here.
What's blood for, if not for shedding?
Welcome to Fright Night.
Welcome back to Jump Scare. I'm Betty.
And I'm Chad.
This week we're covering Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday.
Horror has many faces. Death wears many different masks. But pure evil wears only one. And this is your final chance to see it. Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday.
We're celebrating the 30th anniversary of this film as we are now in 2023. Happy New Year!
Yay!
And the movie came out in 1993. Goodness.
Yeah, that's been a while ago.
It looks like a movie that came out in 1993.
It does. It's a very late 80s, early 90s, and it's whole movie, this.
This Jason is played by Kane Hodder.
Yep, this was his third time out as Jason.
Wow.
Yeah, and of course it stars...
Kane Hodder.
Yes, we just said that.
No, because he plays the security guard too.
Okay.
So I was making a joke.
Oh, okay.
It was a terrible joke.
Okay, I get it now. I was a little slow on the uptake there. Yeah, he's the security guard. He gets to play Jason and be killed by Jason in this, kind of. You also have someone from the Friday the 13th, the series, finally making the jump.
Ryan, from Friday the 13th, the series, plays Steven in this movie. No relation, two different characters.
Yep.
But
John D. LeMay finally makes the jump.
Yeah, and which I think is amazing, and I have so many questions. How the hell did he get this, role? How did he do it?
Yeah, I tried to find online. There really didn't seem to be a lot of info about it.
It's just interesting to me because, there's no connection. There's only a connection via the name Friday the 13th.
They went out of their way to keep them separate for a long time and make sure there was no references to Jason Voorhees and Friday the 13th, the series at all. You know, they went out of their way to make sure there was never any cursed hockey mask or machete or anything like that you had to deal with. So then they finally jumped him over there. But it would have been cool if they'd made, if he'd had a line where he said, oh, I just got back from working with my cousin or something like that, and you could have been like, hey.
Yeah, I just got back from working at the antique shop. Wink, wink.
Yeah, that'd have been kind of fun, but they just chose to ignore that as well.
So yeah, that was really... He was working with his cousin, not for his cousin. She didn't own the... Well, it's a long story. Just watch the TV show.
And listen to our podcast about it.
Yes, we covered that as well.
Friday the 13th, we covered the series instead of a movie.
Ooh, yeah, because I'm going to tell you what. Not a fan of the series. Friday the 13th. Not a Friday the 13th fan. I'm whatever. It's fine. The first one, obviously, classic. The second one, thumbs up. It just, when you start getting into like this one.
Yes, there's an owl hooting rather loudly outside our window. If you can hear that out in podcast land.
I don't think they can hear it, but I heard it, and I don't like it for a multitude of reasons, but we're going to move on. We're going to move on and jump back right into Friday the 13th. What is going on in this movie? Now, there is a thing behind the movie how, obviously, spoiler alert, it's a 30-year-old spoiler alert, so if you fucking haven't seen it by now, just pause and then go watch the movie and come back. Freddy's glove and a little bit of his sweater.
Yeah.
Comes through in the end. We're just going to jump to the end. Comes through to the end, pulls the hockey mask down, okay?
And to hell.
Into hell.
So, they have been trying, apparently, since around 1987, 88, to do a Jason versus Freddy. And it just never seemed to happen. And you would have thought that once New Line, which this was the first Friday the 13th movie, which is technically not Friday the 13th, it's Jason Goes to Hell. Because they didn't get the name Friday the 13th. They just got the character of Jason. So they get Jason finally. You'd think since New Line owned Jason and Freddy, that would have made it a lot easier. But it still took another 10 years for them to figure out a script and everything to do a Jason versus Freddy.
Because how do you... I mean, obviously they did it. But, like, it's a quiet movie on one end. Jason doesn't speak. So, because he chooses not to speak. I know he knows how to fucking speak because he rode the bus, like, in part 2 to get to where he needed to go. Yeah. We covered that in the podcast.
He had to buy, unless he just went there and pointed at a map on the bus station wall. And
he could have.
But then again, how did he get the money? There's a lot of questions about this that are never answered.
Yeah, we dove into all these questions when we covered that film. But this film, now, there's that. But then there's also some weird fucking book that arises. So before we get into all of that, I just want to give like a slight synopsis, Shad.
Okay. In what is probably my favorite opening to any of these Friday the 13th movies. It starts off with I just want to tell this part. I love the opening.
Okay, I was going to say, that's not a synopsis, bro.
I know, I love the opening of this. Where the girl's doing the typical thing. She's in the cabin alone out in the woods. She's taking a shower. And then Jason appears. He chases her through the woods. And you think he's about to overtake her and kill her. When suddenly the SWAT team just, jumps out of the trees. They come out of bushes. They come everywhere. And just blowing to pieces with every kind of gun imaginable and grenades. They then take all the pieces back to... a hospital or a mortuary, wherever they're at. They're in a basement somewhere. And they're going to do the autopsy on him. When Jason's heart that somehow survived all these explosions and managed to be still so full of blood that it filled a dish.
Oh, okay. That's my question. Where did all this blood come from that was in a dish? And that's not a synopsis. Oh, okay. So let's go back to this heart full of blood. Like this glass full of blood. With the heart, like, what is up with that? Where will this blood come from? We just saw that he's blown up to bits on grass, okay? Dry fucking grass. There was no blood. It was just like arm, leg, heart, whatever, head. And
Jason had a big heart, and it was big heart full of blood. And once they put it into the beaker, it just, the petri dish, whatever you want to call it, it just started oozing out the blood, I guess.
Okay.
So the mortician guy or the coroner, he grabs the heart suddenly, just eats it, and then what looks like the little demon lights from Nightmare on Elm Street pop out of Jason's body and transfer Jason's spirit into this guy. And then kind of like The Hidden or what's the one with Denzel Washington, The Fallen, he's just going around jumping from body to body, trying to make his way back to Camp Crystal Lake, because we've introduced now 8 movies in, we've introduced that Jason has a sister we've never heard of. And in order to be reborn into his old body, Jason has to find her and possess her, because only from a Voorhees can he be reborn, or by a Voorhees can he be killed. We've added that wrinkle to it now, 8 movies in. Which explains why no one could ever finally kill him in any of the other 8 movies. Or just the 9th movie, I'm sorry. Or the previous 8 movies, that's why they couldn't kill him, because they weren't a Voorhees.
Yeah. So this would make this whole plot of the story is sad to me, because it's something that could have been done way long ago, and it's hated by many. A lot of people hate this film. I like the explanation in a sense, but now you're just going to Halloween territory with we have to have some kind of blood connection, and now he's going after blood, and it's only gonna take It's just too much. It's too much when it's like number 9 in the movie.
Yeah.
Like,
if you'd introduced this like in part 2 or 3,
I'm gonna give it part 3.
Yeah, if you'd had at least part 3 and you introduced this, I might be like, all right, fine. But by the time you've hit part 9, I mean, the man's already been to New York at this point. He's already been...
He's been to the Statue of Liberty. He's already been to New York.
He's already done all these things, so...
He traveled out of a fucking lake, okay?
On a cruise ship.
On a cruise ship.
He cruised from a lake somewhere in New Jersey to New York. Now, here's the thing I still don't understand about that. How the fuck was a big-ass cruise ship in that lake?
You know, they helicoptered it in.
I guess. Because it's not like a little yacht. It's a big ship. Anyhow.
Oh no, there's a lot. See, this is exactly why I'm not saying Halloween is perfect. That shit is, especially now, it's all jacked up. Okay. But at least...
Michael Myers just put his ass behind the wheel of a car and drove to wherever he was trying to kill a bitch.
Yeah, he knew how to drive, at least, damn. Like... He had a job the other 364 days of the year. He did something else.
That's not true. He just laid in that old man's house, or old man's shack that time out in part 5.
That's
he
because
laid there for a year.
He was badly hurt, and he went down the stream. Okay,
who was feeding him for that whole year? How did he?
The
eat?
old man, obviously.
Drink?
That's what makes that scene so sad, because the old man was caring for him. He was bringing him the gutter fishes,
mashed potatoes in his mouth, and mashing them up for him so he can swallow.
Yes, he did all of those things. He was a caring old man, and then he gets murdered, because that's the thing. Michael Myers doesn't have compassion. But we have to put it away from Myers, because this is a Voorhees cast. We're covering Jason, who does he go to hell? I mean, question mark.
End, apparently he might.
And then my thing is, I started talking about the book. So there's this book that randomly shows up in the movie.
The Necronomicon from Evil Dead.
Yes.
And it's the Necronomicon from the Evil Dead movies.
Like the actual one. Like the prop they used in those films.
Yeah. And apparently that wasn't something they asked permission to do. They just kind of did it. They borrowed that without checking with Sam Raimi, who wasn't real happy about it. So, from what I've read, the director of it wanted to imply that Jason was a Deadite. That's how he managed to come back from the lake after he died as a little kid. You know, I mean, he did die when he was like 9 years old. Even at the end of the first movie, he's a little kid jumping out of the lake to grab her. Then a couple of years later, he's a grown man who can take the bus and everything, and they never really delved into that.
No.
And then I've heard some of the stories that say, oh, well, he did survive, but he lived in the woods like a scavenger for years. Why didn't he just go back to his mom? None of it makes any sense. But that was where his thing was, like, oh, Pamela Voorhees brought him back from the dead, and she made a deal with, you know, whoever the devil or whoever it is that runs the Necronomicon to bring him
Deadite.
back.
According to this new Evil Dead Rise, whatever, it's the Dead Mother.
Well, that's because Smile was very popular, so you can have like people smiling creepily on your poster now.
Okay.
The next few horror movies will all have that on there, since that movie made $1 billion on like a $10 million budget or whatever.
It made $216 million.
Yeah.
On a $17 million.
So it made $200 million with a profit. So you can bet they're going to try and copy it for a few movies now. And you know what? I can't say as I blame them. Let's see if we can't get some of that money. But yeah, so this movie,
he's a Deadite. So I like this. See, this is where it kills me, because you have the whole like, okay, this is why we have not been able to kill this foe. Like, he's a zombie. Like, he died and came back. And his name is not JC. So his name is Jason Voorhees. He's JV. So he came back resurrected. Okay, zombie. Now he's going around killing, like, he's continued killing people for years, you know, as a zombie. That would explain, oh, he's a Deadite. Okay, perfect explanation, you know, and the whole thing of, like, those are those old movies, you know, like, those, like, fantasy movies, you know, where they always, even, like, obviously novels, that they have, like, there has to be, like, a blood connection. It's like, blood per
Yeah.
blood, the seventh son of the seventh son, that all that shit. That's perfect. Like, I can eat all that shit up, but not 9 movies in. But the whole Deadite Necronomicon, because that's what I was telling you. I was like, how the hell are they gonna have this book in here? I was mad about it. I was like, this is ridiculous. Because we've never seen. I'm like, wait a second. It's a whole book. We only see Ash in the movies cover like 2 pages.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is in the rest of the book?
Well, apparently ways to bring your son back from the dead. And they even have like the character Creighton Duke, the bounty hunter, who is after Jason because apparently they cut his backstory, but Jason killed his girlfriend when they were teenagers, so he's been hunting him ever since. He's played by Stephen Williams, who you might remember from The X-Files. He was Mulder's source in the second and third and maybe fourth seasons. I remember he got killed off eventually, but I don't remember when. He also played in 21 Jump Street. He's been in a lot of things. And he plays Creighton Duke, who has the great line about, for $500,000, I will bring you Jason Voorhees. For that, you get the mask, the machete, the whole damn body, or something like that. It's a parody of the Jaws speech that Quint gives. And he also has the creepy line about when they say, what do you think about Jason? When I say Jason Voorhees, what do you think of? He says, I think about a little girl in a pink dress putting a hot dog through a donut.
Yeah, what the fuck is that?
I don't even.
That is not what I think about when I think about Jason Voorhees.
Super fucking creepy and weird, but yeah.
Maybe he's saying like, I mean, the hot dog through the donut, that's
some kind of a sexual
very
thing,
vivid, but I get it, like, he's not scared of Jason. He's just like, oh, whatever, like a little girl. I don't want to get into what the rest of that means, but
he brings the Jason's I guess now his niece, because his sister was played by Erin Gray from Battlestar Buck Rogers, and also John Carpenter's agent. She brings her dagger, which she doesn't use, but ends up passing it to her daughter, which when you touch this knife that looks regular, it suddenly turns into what looks like one of the Kandarian daggers from Evil Dead.
Yeah.
So they're bringing that into
that part
it too.
was cool.
Yeah. So then she can use that dagger to stab Jason in the heart and kill him.
Oh, they also have that connection. Freddy's Dead is the one where all the spirits, I think, come in, right? Which is the one where Freddy fucking finds out that he has a daughter.
Yeah.
Boom. And the daughter is the only one, or the one that can, like, take him out.
I think so, yeah. It's been a while since I've watched that one.
Literally, Jason Goes to Hell. Like, so they're trying to make really trying to connect, which I feel like those are too weird. I guess because they're big slashers. Like, I wouldn't pair up Freddy with Michael Myers.
Yeah. I would have always thought like I guess there'd be no dialogue in it. A Michael Myers versus Jason would have probably made more sense because they're both.
It's a silent film. Please, someone come out with a silent film of that. I would watch that. With like the fucking.
Well, ever since they did like Dracula and Frankenstein versus the werewolf and that kind of stuff, they've been wanting to do this mashup of stuff. And I think if they had managed to get the movie out at the time, they would have made a connection between like. They might have been able to pull off the Deadite one, who knows, between like the Deadites and Jason and Freddy. Because you remember they also planned to do a Jason versus Freddy and Ash. Or Ash versus Jason and Freddy at one point that never came to be.
Yeah, but that's what I was going to ask you, because I'm not a comic book person, but I remember there was rumblings in the comic book world. Wasn't there a comic book that had that? So
they did that off of the screenplay that never got produced.
Okay.
So yeah, that was a thing they were thinking about doing for years, that they tried to get off the ground after... They tried to get off the ground for sure after the Jason versus Freddy came out and made a ton of money, and then they never made a sequel to it.
So in the movies when they do this, it always gets me because it's like, oh, okay, they're just trying to remind us like, hey, this is not like regular Joe going around killing people. This is Jason. Every time Jason has any kind of reflection, he's in a mirror or a fucking puddle or whatever. It's you see the person, your POV is the person. But then when you see the reflection, it's Jason.
Yeah.
To remind you, like, oh, this is still Jason going around killing, people.
You still see the full hockey mask guy. And I love how in the movie, when he eventually gets reborn, he's reborn complete with the outfit he was wearing originally in the beginning of the movie. He regenerated his clothes too, because like I guess they couldn't just have like a buck naked Jason just pop up out of the hole and start running around killing everybody.
That would be mad graphic, but also think about this. He's been in those clothes for years. Like, they're literally, like, when you wear, like, they're like, you know, the people who, like, are on the bed or, like, they're on a couch for too long and they peel them off and they have, like, the fabric stuck to their fucking skin. Like, it grows over. That's literally what happened.
Yeah.
That's my explanation to how he's still wearing these clothes.
Yeah, and...
I feel like they're also still wet.
Probably. Yeah, there's a lot of pretty good kills in this movie. Like, probably my favorite is the... now, this is another thing that kills me about this movie. The John D. LeMay's character is driving. He sees 3 people out hitchhiking. He picks them up and they say, "Where are you headed?" And they go, "Camp Crystal Lake." And he goes, "Okay, I'll take you to Camp Crystal Lake." One of the girls obviously is like hitting on him. He's like, "Hey, come on down with us. We're going to have a party down by the lake." So yeah, she's hitting on him and is saying like, "Oh, you should come with us. You should party with us and all this." He's like, I gotta go back to my girlfriend and all this. And they were like, "Yeah, we're really glad you came by. We've been standing out there for hours waiting for a ride." And then he goes, "Okay, we're here." They drove for 3 minutes. They could have just walked the other, like, how long, even if you're going 40 miles an hour, you drove for 3 minutes, how far could you have gone that you couldn't have just walked on down the road and got your ass there? You know, how long did they just stand there waiting for this guy to pick him up? And then he drops him off at what looks like the same place he picked him up. It's weird. Like, they didn't spend a lot on locations for this. I have a feeling this was like a reshoot kind of thing. Because it looks like he just dropped him off on the other side of this. Like, he came up the other way, you know?
Yeah.
Dropped him off on the other side of the stop sign where they were standing before. I'm like, okay. Well, they go down, and then, like, 2 of them are having sex in the tent. And in what is the most subtle thing ever in a Friday the 13th movie, she's like, "Oh, come on, baby, use the condom." And he's like, "Nah, we don't need a condom." He throws it out of the window of the tent. And that's when you see the possessed person as walks up, steps on the condom. You're like, symbolism. Because, you know, it was the 90s, so we had to start having consequences for all the casual sex in these movies. So then, while they're having sex, she gets killed because Jason shoves the, like, tent spike through there, stabs it through her, and then rips her completely in half, which is a pretty good effect.
From her stomach up.
Yeah, he rips her pretty good. And
her vagina's still intact.
Yeah, because she was still riding the guy when this happened. And apparently on the commentary of this, it says that the effects guy kept the molds that he made of her when she was split in half and uses them as bookends.
Whoa.
That's intense, right? Can you imagine you go to this guy's house and he's got the fucking, like, bookends of the split in half woman?
That's fucking... That's intense.
That'd be awesome to see. Like, walk in, like, what is that? Oh, yeah. It's this girl that got cut in half in a Friday the 13th movie. We just made some bookends out of her.
No, that's fucking creepy, dude.
Yeah.
And also that girl, like, how weird to be forever, like, immortalized in that way. Because it's like a mold of her tits, like, her whole thing, like, her whole body.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, the sex scene in there is... it's probably the most graphic sex scene in a Friday the 13th movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
And as I'm sure everybody by this point knows, the two doing this were a couple that had just recently broke up. So that had to be nice and awkward for them to film that very long sex scene. Because I'm sure you had to spend hours doing that. Because, yeah, it's like 3 or 4 minutes on screen, but you know they probably spent a whole night or two filming that.
Yeah.
So that would have sucked to be both of them.
I like, just thinking about it, I can't. There are a lot of good kills in this movie.
Your favorite one?
No, I don't have a favorite. I like them all pretty equally. That one's pretty good. They're all pretty gruesome. Very gruesome. They had to up the ante, for sure. I mean, we've already seen them kill, like, so many people.
It's probably 150 people at this point, so they've got to come up with some new ways. This movie also has an appearance by the recently passed away Leslie Jordan.
Oh yes, Leslie Jordan in this movie. When you see him, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah,
and he was like in his 30s.
Yeah,
like 35 or something.
Yeah, and it's crazy to see him so young because you got used to seeing him on these things more recently where he's older. And yeah, it's this movie. You know, it's not my favorite one of them, but it's fun. It has some good kills in it, and I get what they were trying to do. They were like, you know, we're 8 movies in. We've already done all this shit. Let's just try something new and see how it goes. And unfortunately, it was just too late to reboot it, because at that point, people just expected it to be... This kind of has the Halloween 3 problem. People expected it to be Jason showing up at Camp Crystal Lake killing people. That's what they were going to see. And when it wasn't that, they didn't care.
I'm going to tell you right now. If anyone thought this is what they were going to see 9 movies in, fuck my life. You had movies 1 through 8 to watch if you wanted to watch that. Oh, fine, let's skip New York. You had all those other movies, you know. I mean, how many times... First of all, how many times are people going to be like, oh, let's go to Camp Crystal Lake. That's a place where I want to go to. No, bitch. So many people get murdered there. Do not go there. I don't think there was ever a history oh, remember that year in 1987 when we went to Camp Crystal Lake and we just came back just fine. Everyone survived. Nothing crazy happened. No. Anytime anyone has ever gone there, murdered. Maybe one survivor. Maybe no survivors. This is not a place.
That's a lot of places, though. Why the hell would anybody live in Sunnydale in Buffy? That town had massacres every other week. There was a dozen or more people killed at that place.
Poverty. You can't just go around just leaving your house. This is not fucking, what's that movie? Not The Conjuring. It's not Insidious. Where they're like, oh no, this bitch is haunted. And then they just get up and go to another fucking house.
Another fabulous house.
You know, it's okay. And I think there was one line oh no, it's costing us so much money to do this. We can't move again. We can't afford it. We never hear about it again. Mind you, it's not obviously major plot point in the film, but they just... That's always the thing in those haunted horror movies, haunted houses, horror movies. That's a lot. You know what I get to what I'm saying. You can't leave because you're poor. You can't leave. I can't afford it. Can't just up and go. Especially in these haunted house movies, there's multiple children. There's never it's just a husband and a wife.
Yeah, they always have 9 kids.
You know, even if it's just one fucking kid, that's still a lot.
But that's a lot of places. Like I said, Sunnydale's that way. I feel like... What was the town? Sparta, Mississippi, in the heat of the night. That place had a murder a week for 8 or 9 seasons. I would not... Out of there. That place was a bad place to live. And also, anywhere that, Angela Lansbury went in Murder, She Wrote, everywhere she went, somebody died. That bitch was the angel of death. Because it didn't matter where she went, a murder happened. I'd see her coming and be like, no, I would lock the door and not let her in anywhere near my house because somebody was going to die when she got there.
Maybe if they would have done Camp Crystal Lake housing or Camp Crystal Lake condominiums or keep the name but it's not actually a camp. You know what I mean?
They're breaking ground on the new apartment. Or they're putting in a new section on the new apartment building. They break through the concrete and there's Jason's corpse in the concrete. So then that's where he comes out. How he got there? Who knows? Make some shit up. They wouldn't be the first time they've done that.
Big corporation came and they bought the land.
They found him floating on the rock at the bottom of it.
The corporation from the Poltergeist, they fucking jumped ship from that area. They moved somewhere else. They went to New Jersey, bought the fucking land, put concrete over the fucking lake, put apartments on it.
And he was just covered in the slime down there. They didn't see it, and they just put concrete. Next thing you know, he's busting out of the concrete.
Yeah, or they did see it and they're like, that's Jason. Who cares about that guy? He's super dead. We don't have money to transport that body. No one cares. He has no living relatives. No one's coming to look for him. Boom, concrete.
We'll just move his headstone like we did in the other Poltergeist movie. It worked out fine for everyone.
Yeah, that was only one family against us. Everyone else, no one else had any issues around the neighborhood.
Yeah, it should be fine. So this is just one guy. Who cares?
Yeah, concrete. Boom.
Yeah. So
do something like that.
I get the idea that they were trying to do something new because they were so deep into it that they wanted to try something new. But like I said, people didn't want to see something new at that point. They just wanted to see the same old thing. It was like a comfort food thing. That's why I think the New York one didn't do well, because all they would have had to done when they got to New York was there's a police station every few blocks in New York. There's a small precinct, right?
Yeah,
go to the police station.
That New York
Something.
one is very disturbing.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in there.
I do not like that one.
And that one made no sense either. Like, okay, he's in New York, but he only kills people that, like, attack him personally or bother him. Yet he's obsessed with hunting down these people from Crystal Lake. Wouldn't he just go on a mass murder spree everywhere if he got to a big city? He's very selective in what's going on. It makes no sense.
Maybe he can't see the other people around him. Only he can see, like, the aura, like a glow from the Camp Crystal Lake people.
People that have touched the ground around there.
Yeah. So, and maybe, like, he has, like, the fucking, like, horse vision where he's just, like...
He's got blinders so he can't see anything with them. While he just sees, like, black shadow outlines of everyone else. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's how he's able to tell them in the crowd. It's like fucking Terminator when he's, like, scanning the room. He's looking for the Camp Crystal Lake aura. That's how he gets him. I know that this has been, like, a long time coming. Obviously, the whole franchise has been in litigations for, like, a bajillion years, and who knows if that's ever going to officially be 100% cleared out, because I know we got to, like, a point where it was, like, good, but then it was not good anymore.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't come back. I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to see another Jason movie. I don't want to see another Jason Voorhees. I don't want to see another Michael Myers movie. Let's make a new icon. What happened to fucking, what's his face? This is who we need to be focusing on. My man from behind the mask, Leslie Vernon. What happened to Leslie Vernon?
Yeah, we need to bring him back.
Or someone else. I know now technically, I guess we have Terrifier, but yeah, somebody else. We need to make more, more horror icons. We need to let these rest. They tired, okay? In so many regards, story-wise. Like, Michael Myers, he's at a retirement age, okay? He needs to collect the Social Security checks, go into, like, the retirement home for, like, horror icons, and just go to sleep. Jason, he needs to just stay where we left him last. I don't even remember where we left him last. In space. We left him motherfucking space. Is that where we left him? Leave him up there.
Yeah, the last one of that series was where he went to space. And I did the reboot of it, but even then he...
Oh, Killer Cut, which I actually did really like.
Yeah, that one was actually pretty good.
I really like Killer Cut. That's a pretty decent movie. If they do bring it back, it's Camp Crystal Lake, but it's wintertime. And people are there, and they've turned it into, like, Camp Crystal, like, resorts. Or a hockey camp.
At some point at some point in the series, he has to just come out on the ice with the hockey mask on, and someone say, "Oh, the new goalie's here."
No.
And then he just goes and murders the shit out of everybody on the ice.
I'm going to tell you what.
He's got to use a skate, he's got to use a hockey stick, and he's got to cram a hockey puck in someone's mouth. Either by just grabbing him and cramming it in, or he hits the puck so hard when it hits them, it just shatters their teeth and goes into their mouth and kills them.
I don't want to say anything negative about a child, because at the end of the day, or maybe, you know what, we revert him back to a child, and now he's just a child murderer. Because I don't know if anyone else has noticed, and I'm going to state this now at this podcast. We're going to see in 2023, 2024, maybe we'll be tired by 2024, there's going to be an up in child murder movies. Like, The Children of the Murderers. We have that fucking, I think it's going to be a terrible movie. That movie that's coming out about the killer kids, which is literally that so similar to that movie that we started watching. It was really bad. About the kids that freaking were by, like, the power plant in the school bus.
The Children.
Yeah, The Children. The Children, and that new movie that's coming out. Don't Let the Children Are Coming. I don't know the name of the damn movie, but the children are crazy and they're killing people. They're killing their parents in the movie. There's going to be a rise in, like, children killer. Because that's been, like, a faux pas, I feel. Like, we can't have children doing anything crazy. Like, that's drawing a line.
Yeah, if that movie makes money, it will be. If that one bombs, it'll be like, nah, let's just go back.
Well, if it does make money, they need to bring Jason back as a kid. That movie I will see. Then he can... Because, and I don't want to say anything negative about anyone with a disability, because this is a fictional character, okay? This is not a real person. Okay, but I'm going to tell you right now, this child that jumped out with, like, his bulbous head, and he was like, deformity in the back of his head and his crazy eye jumped out of the water in the first movie. He is not getting in skates, all right, fucking doing any kind of fucking skating and playing hockey. I'm telling you right now, he couldn't even swim, okay? And also, water is his vulnerability. So he can't get on the fucking ice. He's literally, he'll be in water. And some ice breaks, he's dead. That's it. End of movie.
You know, he stayed at the bottom of the lake for like 2 different movies, chained to a rock, and he came out okay. All they had to do was cut the chain.
According to Jason versus Freddy, that was a little water from a fucking pipe did him wrong. So, I mean, we gotta draw the line somewhere. Where are we gonna... Is he vulnerable to it or not? Like, you can't just...
So you're saying that like someone with a water gun could defeat Jason?
Yes, I bet that's
someone just hoses him down. They're like the
a super soaker.
They're like hitting the cat in your yard that you're trying to get rid of. They're just spraying him with the hose, and they're like, "Back, you son of a bitch! I will turn the sprinklers on your ass. Do not come into my yard."
And that's it. He's dead. Bring Corey Feldman back, okay?
Yeah, this had been their opportunity here to have have it be Tommy Jarvis that was coming after him. Why not just have John LeMay play Tommy Jarvis? I'm sure they didn't have the rights to it, but why not have him just be Tommy Jarvis again? That would have been fine.
I guess, but we already did Tommy Jarvis as an adult in that other movie.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you can't have him again. Kid versus kid. There's so many. Look, we could just sit here all night long and come up with all kinds of crazy ass ways that they could redo this movie. But whatever does happen, if it does eventually happen, I'm sure it's either going to be fucking amazeballs or it's going to be fucking terrible.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's not going to be any middle on it. If it comes back, it's going to be amazing and everyone's going to be like, holy shit, they pulled it off. They revitalized the franchise. Or it's going to be like, oh God, why didn't they just leave it dead?
I'm going to tell you right now, if it's set in the wintertime and there is a hockey scene or some kind of ice scene and they're like in Camp Crystal Lake, like mountain resorts or some shit, I'm going to need some royalties. I'm going to tell you right now, it's here. This is forever.
Just give me a Camp Crystal Lake Flyers or whatever you're going to call it, hockey jersey, and I'll be happy.
Hell no. I'm going to need that cash, okay? I'm going to put all the cash in the bed underneath the mattress, old-timey style. Okay, I'm going to Scrooge McDuck it. Okay, thank you very much. That would be pretty cool. But, like I said, we can sit here all day and come up with all the crazy ideas of what could happen to Jason.
But in the end, I think what we'll get is... I think the remake in 2009, which was pretty good, is probably the best one that they had done since like maybe Part 6. Maybe since like 86 that came out. So maybe like that one, and then the Killer Cut came out in 2009, so it'd been like 23 years since there was a decent one.
What happened in Part 6?
Part 6 was the one where he finally came back and he was Zombie Jason.
Okay.
They dug up the grave and Tommy Jarvis put the fence post through him and got struck by lightning.
Fine. As long as it's before the fucking telepath or the girl with the kinetic powers, whatever the fuck she had.
Carrie?
Yeah, telekinesis.
I know. She was essentially, the pitch of that one was Jason versus Carrie.
Yeah, but before it gets crazy weird, and then it's just, why? Why?
That Part 6 had the great opening where they do the thing like James Bond, where they're doing you see the scope coming on Jason, and he slashes it with the machete. Yeah, the opening of that one was great, too.
Yeah, it's a pretty good opening.
Because that one tried something different. That was where they were like, oh, well, we finally killed him in the last one. We hacked his face off with a machete. So that was when he finally came back as Zombie Jason for real. But yeah, I'd give this one 2.5 knives. It's watchable, it's fun, but the more you think about it, the less sense it makes.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense only if you know this whole Deadite situation.
Yeah.
That's what makes the movie, which they don't. They don't go out of their way to say...
They don't mention it because, of course, they didn't have the rights to any of that.
Of course. But, like, if you're a horror film fan, like, you see the fucking Evil Dead book, like, you're like, it's a Necronomicon, you're there, like, okay, there's something to this, and I need to find out what it is. But we don't have the explanation, so then the movie is all over the place. Like, it doesn't make sense. Does it make 100% does it make that much sense with that knowledge? A little bit. Doesn't make the movie per se better, but I find it to be more interesting in them bringing a connection and kind of bringing it into the same world. If we're gonna go out and say that he lives in the same world as Freddy, why couldn't he live in the same world as Ash? Like, why not?
Well,
and it explains why he comes back.
Yeah, you got Ash traveling through time and everything, so who knows? Maybe he travels to multiple dimensions. The multiverse is big now. We're going to get Jason in the multiverse.
Oh, gosh.
Well, someone's writing that right now. You know they are.
I can't right now. Oh, there is I'm sure there's a fucking shit ton of Easter eggs, but the sheriff's office is in Cunningham County.
Yeah.
Wink.
Also, there's another little trivia on this. Not only does Kane Hodder play, Jason, plays a security guard outside the place, he's also the person that was wearing the Freddy glove and sweater that pulled it down. So technically he's played Jason, Freddy, and he was stunt double for Leatherface in one of the Texas Chainsaws as well.
And he got killed by himself.
Yeah. So not many of the others can say that.
I hope that he got multiple checks because he did multiple things in this film.
Yeah, he deserved it.
He also probably got people coffee. I don't...
He was doing everything in this movie.
Let's just say that he did, because that makes it. Yeah, that's kind of weird. But then who was? Okay, never mind. I was gonna actually say something really stupid, so I'm gonna stop right there. So I said I gave this film two. I'm gonna give it 2 knives.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it 2 knives. If knowing about the Deadite, him being a Deadite, I'll give it 2.5 knives. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna say I had to think about it. I had to really put my mind to it.
You look like you broke there for a second.
I did break because it's Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday,
so the
Friday the 13th.
Time in a series that we've had you had part 4 was the final chapter. That turned out not to be true. Now we've got the final Friday, which also turned out not to be true because Jason X came after this.
But was it on a Friday though?
It's true. It might have been the final Friday in the series. Jason kept going.
It might have been. So when he was in space, that shit happened on a fucking Wednesday.
Yeah, that's fine.
Let's just be honest. He's floating in space. It's not Friday. Are there Fridays in space? They're
using star dates for the time. They're using Star Trek rules now. They're using star dates. Nobody worries about the dates anymore.
Okay.
But he just comes on and they're like, Stardate 1313. Oh, shit.
Oh, my gosh. I can't. Bring him, keep him in space, and do something amazing with him in space.
There were tie-in novels that took place after Jason X. They did novels that happened where he, crashed onto the planet and was killing people on the new planet.
Interesting. Was there a Camp Crystal Lake in that planet?
I don't know. Maybe it was Planet Crystal Lake. Who knows? The whole planet was a giant crystal lake.
Holy shit. There's a movie right there. Boom. If what's-his-face, Machete could go into fucking space, we're going to put Jason in space. He's already in space. He's already there.
He's going to run into Machete.
We just got Machete versus... Oh, and his name is Machete. So... Yeah. That's what he uses to kill.
That would be an amazing one. They have a machete fight in space.
Machete versus Jason with a machete.
That would be great.
We already gotta go. Let's call him up. Let's call what's his face up.
Let's call Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo.
He's game. He's already in. I can tell you that right now. He's down.
Oh my gosh, yes, okay. I'm gonna dream about this. Thank you so much for joining us. The 30th anniversary of Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. Stay tuned to the horror.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.